Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is the television voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, Pete Pranica. It's been over a decade since Pete Pranica arrived in the Bluff City to be a part of the Memphis Grizzlies broadcast team. Pete began as the radio voice of the Grizz, but would soon take over television duties after the unexpected passing of longtime Grizzlies play-by-play broadcaster Don Poyer. Pranica has developed a great rapport with the Grizzlies fan base, who watch and listen to him throw out such crowd pleasers as an emphatic "Bango" or Z-Bound to describe a Zach Randolph board. In November of last year, he was behind the mic for his 1,000th NBA broadcast, which includes his 4+ years in Portland. Today, Pete is considered one of the best in the business at his craft. He is as prepared and intelligent as anyone, and his enthusiasm is contagious. Today, Pete Pranica joins me to look back at his more than a decade in Memphis with the Grizzlies, his rise in the broadcasting profession, and his thoughts on this year's squad. And it's all next on Sports Files. Pete, thanks so much for being with us. I know you're busy right now. The Grizzlies are playing a lot of games before the All-Star break, but thanks for taking some time out.
Anytime.
Where does your love for sports come from?
I think when you grow up way out in the country, as I did in Wisconsin, and there are no neighbors around, I literally grew up 15 miles from Lambeau Field. And so you grow up and you listen to sports on the radio. And it was just something that always enchanted me, something that I was interested in. And I realized at a very young age, given my rather small stature, that I was never really going to be able to play any sports. And so if you can't play and you can watch, broadcasting became how I wanted to get involved, and was lucky enough to get to do it.
Sounds very familiar. But when did you realize you had the gift for gab?
It's kind of funny. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and my mom would take me to the barber shop, and the barber shop would ask me, "So what do you think about the Packers?" And I'd go on for like 20 minutes. The haircut's over. It's like, okay, we're done with the haircut. And I'm still talking about Bart Starr and Boyd Dowler, and my mom's like, "Oh my, this child of mine, And my high school, Premontre High School in Green Bay, Catholic boys' school, had a 10-watt radio station. And so every period of the day, if you were in study hall and your grades were good and you were the first to sign up, you could be on the air for an hour.
Interesting.
Basically spinning records. And those of us who were interested in doing play-by-play, we did basketball and football and hockey. And so that's how I got into it. So I was doing play-by-play since I've been old enough to drive a car. And a lot of your viewers know who Kevin Harlan is.
Right.
Kevin is 4 years older than I, and he went through Premontre High School just before I did. So that's where both of us got our starts.
It's interesting because most people that are in our industry, they get their first taste in a college, at a college radio station. You got it in high school. But when you went to Notre Dame, a great institution, were you broadcasting there?
I was. I immediately jumped into student radio. And Notre Dame does not have a broadcasting program per se. So it allows you to be a little bit more creative. And if you're assertive and you go out and you do stuff, you have the opportunity to do that. And when there weren't opportunities for the radio station, I would literally take a cassette deck, and I asked the SID for women's basketball, I said, "Do you mind if I sit courtside and just do games on tape?" And she's like, "Sure, we'd be happy to have somebody sitting courtside doing games on tape." And so I did that. And reps are the only way that you get better at this business. The more games you do, the more shows you do, that's the only way you get better.
What was your first paying gig?
First paying gig, it was being a stringer for Mutual. When Jerry Faust got fired and Lou Holtz was hired. And Mutual, based in Arlington, Virginia, and of course they had been the network home of Notre Dame football, they weren't going to send anybody out. So I had known Tony Roberts and Larry Michael at Mutual, and I said, look, do you need anything from this press conference? He said, yes, of course we do. We set up a live feed. You know, this is back in 1985. We set up a live feed from the press conference back to Mutual. So Mutual had all the audio, and I think I probably got $50 for setting it all up. So yeah.
Let's fast forward now to the NBA. I know you did some stuff with the Pistons, you did some freelancing, but you got that first job in Portland. You always talk about Steve Snapper Jones,
right,
who's, I guess, one of your mentors. What was that experience like in Portland, getting your feet wet really in the NBA and turning into the broadcaster you are now?
Well, it was a challenge because I had not done a whole lot of television. And here I was being thrown in as the television voice of the Portland Trailblazers, a team that perennially had been very good.
Right.
Steve Jones had been notoriously hard on his broadcast partners. Where, you know, one of his prior partners had said, so Steve, what's the key to tonight's game? And Steve would say, score more points than the other team. And just totally leave him hanging. And so it was tough because I had done so much radio and I had not done much television. So the adjustment of the call was different. And just trying not to be intimidated by the depth and breadth of it all, and working with Steve Jones, who is doing the NBA on NBC. That to me was the biggest challenge. Also at that time, the organization, as we all know, went through a period of time where the players were not of the best character.
Right.
And yet on air, you had to present them as the best possible players and human beings that you possibly could. And that could be very challenging. There were several occasions where I literally had to come on the air and say, before we talk about tonight's game, we need to tell you that so-and-so has been arrested.
Wow.
And that was a challenge.
You take what you learned and the skills you honed in Portland, and now you turn it into a job with Memphis. You come here in 2004 as the radio voice. And then a few months later, Don Poyer passes away. It was just the 10-year anniversary of his death. What's going on with you at that time?
One of the worst days of my life, because the Grizzlies had their sponsors in town. Don and I had dinner with the sponsors the night before, and he was talking about writing a book and talking about his future. And he wasn't sure about doing television. He really, really preferred radio, but they had said, hey, Don, we're rebranding the team. We'd love for you to do TV. And next day he doesn't go to shoot around. And our worst fears were confirmed when we got back from shoot around, and that he had passed in the night. And the game that night in Denver was not to be televised. And the way it was set up is that Don was doing all 82 games, radio or TV.
Right.
So I am not prepared to do a game that night. And Sean Tuohy and I look at each other, and Sean says, I don't know that I want to do the game tonight. He said, can we just send them the Denver feed? And I said, no. Memphis needs to hear our voices tonight. And thankfully, Andy Dolich, because the sponsors were out there, Andy helped us put together a pregame show. So Sean and I did a segment. We did a segment with Andy. We did a segment with Ron Tillery, who had been a close personal friend of Don's for a number of years. And you were shaking the entire time, because it was you couldn't believe what had happened. You know, we find this out at probably about 11 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to prepare a game, do a game. We were supposed to fly to Utah because we had a back-to-back with the Utah Jazz. We get fogged into Denver. We go back to our hotel rooms that have not been made up at all. And I wasn't the only one who slept with his light on that night. I mean, it was just a horrific 24-hour period.
And in the meantime, while people are trying to come to grips with this tragic loss of a guy in his prime, here's Pete Pranica having to go from radio. Now you become the television voice of the Grizzlies. And it's a whole different mindset. For those who don't know, briefly, the difference between radio and television play-by-play.
Well, radio, you are painting the entire picture. Who has the ball, where they are on the court, what's the game situation, what's the clock situation, what's the shot clock situation, and you have to describe absolutely everything. Television, obviously the viewers can see things, and so you're trying to write captions rather than write the whole story. I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
This past November, 2014, you broadcast your 1,000th NBA game. What was that milestone like for you?
I guess it means I'm old.
No.
But It's one of those things that you look back, and I think of the days when I was growing up in Wisconsin and listening to the transistor radio and listening to Jim Irwin do the Packers and the Bucks and the Badgers and thinking, wow, that is so cool to sit courtside or sit on the 50-yard line and to be able to call these games. And boy, someday I wish I could do that. And I did the part-time thing with the Pistons for about 6 seasons. I thought, well, maybe this is as far as it's ever going to go. And then you realize, lo and behold, here you are 1,000 games in, and you realize that you're phenomenally blessed to be in the position that I'm in.
There was a recent story on you in the New York Times, incredible story about your preparation. There may be some that are equal to you, but there's not many people that are going to out-prepare you for a game. There's a lot of hours that people probably don't realize that you put in getting ready for just one game. Yeah,
it was an interesting exercise to do the article, to have a reporter literally looking over your shoulder as you're writing out your notes for that particular game. But now I think there's a greater responsibility for us who call these games, because the games just don't go to Memphis and the Mid-South. They're on NBA League Pass. They're telecasted overseas to Europe. The Armed Forces Network gets them. The referees listen to our calls. Opposing coaches and scouts listen to these games. And one of the best compliments I had an advanced scout come up to me and to Brevin and say, we watch all these games. And he said, more often than not, we turn the volume down. He said, we listen to you and Brevin because you really give good information. And that really, warmed my heart and kind of makes it all worthwhile, because, yeah, you do sit for very long hours at the desk trying to ferret through the stats, what's important, what's not important, how can we use this in a telecast that we can enhance the viewer's enjoyment and understanding of the game.
Pete, how good is this team? And I would think that this is the best Grizzlies team you've had a chance to broadcast.
To this point, yeah, certainly. I mean, off to the best start in franchise history. I think it's the deepest roster. I think it's the best roster. With good health, I think the sky's the limit for this team. This is an NBA that is as wide open as we have ever seen it. The Spurs are having to fight from behind. Oklahoma City is having to fight from, beyond the 8th seed right now and dealing with injuries as they have all season long. So there's no prohibitive favorite in the East. There's no prohibitive favorite in the West. Obviously, Atlanta's played well in the East. How their game will hold up in the playoffs, actually, I think it will hold up pretty well. But they've not been deep into the playoffs. So what's that experience going to be like? Golden State, how does a jump shooting team survive deep into the playoffs with a rookie head coach, although Steve Kerr certainly has done very well. Right. So it's a wide open NBA. And as Lionel Hollins said at his introductory press conference when he was hired, why not?
As I said in the introduction to our segment, you have a lot of great catchphrases, Bango being one of them. Very briefly, is that your favorite? And if so, where did it come from?
Well, it's the one that has resonated most with the viewers. And growing up in Wisconsin, Eddie Doucette was the original voice of the Bucks. And he was a disc jockey, but got hired to do radio play-by-play for the Bucks. And the owner of the team said, you make it catchy, you make it fun, or you're out of here. And he came up with Bango. And I'd known Eddie, and that's my tribute to Eddie, because he was the guy that really, you listen to him, and he was one of the guys who captured my imagination and said, wow, this would really be a cool job to have.
Another thing I really enjoy about your broadcast is everything seems to flow. It's natural. It never seems to be rehearsed. There are some broadcasters, I won't name names, where it seems like they've already thought out what they want to say when they get to that point and they say it. I just think it's natural listening to you. As you mentioned, with Brevin and with Fish and with Sean Toohey, you guys do an absolutely outstanding job, and I thank you, Pete. It ends our interview. It does not end, though, the last 2 minutes of each interview that I do, and that's called Five for the Road. So we're off the hot seat a little bit, but this is going to be rapid fire.
Okay.
Want to learn a little bit more about you. So first thing that comes into your mind, I think I know the answer to this one, but your favorite professional sports team, you cannot say the Grizzlies.
Green Bay Packers.
What's the love about the Packers? Just a community team, right?
It's a community team, and I am a part owner. I have a share of Packer stock. Lambeau Field, if folks love NFL football, you have to go. It is the cathedral of the NFL.
Favorite pro athlete?
Favorite pro athlete? I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers for obvious reasons.
Favorite music?
Favorite music?
Could be an artist, could be a genre.
I'm going to go with soundtrack music. I love listening to movie soundtracks.
Movie sound, first time we've ever had that answer to that question. Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all time? I'm going to go Bull Durham. I mean, Major League, I mean, it's a 50-50 toss-up, but...
I was wondering if you're going to go sports movie. And
Yeah, pretty much. And if you're going to go non-sports, I'll go Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade.
And then finally, favorite television show?
Favorite television show? I'm going to go back to the 80s. I'm going to go Night Court.
Night Court.
Yes, Harry Anderson. Tough to beat.
Also a pretty good show is Grizzlies on Sports South, Fox Sports Tennessee. Pete, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure, Greg.
Keep up the great work. We'll take a short break. Overtime is next. There's no denying how good Memphis prep basketball has been over the years. The city has produced state champion teams and all-state players. Many who have gone on to star in college and some in the professional ranks. Names like Finch, Hardaway, Perry, Wright, Turner, and Young, just to name a few. They have graced area hardwoods and they have starred. And many of them have gone on to play at the University of Memphis. This season alone, the Tigers have a roster that includes former area standouts Austin Nichols, Nick King, Markel Crawford, and Jake McDowell. The Tigers coaching staff also includes former Hamilton High School head coach Keelan Lawson, whose two sons, KJ and Diedrich, are headed to the U of M. But with it comes the pressure for local players to perform at a high level. Pressure from fans, friends, even family. Some have been able to strive, others have failed. The Lawson brothers are next in line, but are they the next big thing? I recently sat down with KJ and Diedrich to talk about their future. All right, KJ, describe Diedrich's play on the court for everybody.
Just a facilitator, unselfish, very smooth, like to get other people involved, and also can score the ball himself from outside in, inside. He's just a complete player as an individual, complementing each other because what we like to do, drive, post, we really like to do a little bit of everything. So, our game complement each other, not just, one-dimensional players.
Right. Diedrich, I want you to do the same. Talk to me about KJ as the basketball player.
KJ is the type of guy that's always had a killer instinct, always got you backpedaling on your feet. And like when guys start doubling him, that's when you start making other players get better around him by making shots, getting everybody else involved. He's an awesome scorer. He loves to score the ball. He's just a great player. Like you said, we complement each other. We got a smaller guy, he'll post up, got a bigger guy, he'll go around him, and he's wide open, he'll knock down the shot.
You guys have had a lot of mentors to help you develop as young men and also as basketball players. Obviously, Todd Day, now your head coach, who played at the highest level. Your dad, who's now an assistant at the University of Memphis. What's that like to have people in your corner to be able to tutor you the right way in the game?
That right there is very major coming up in the city of Memphis, that people who been where you're trying to go is giving back to you. They showing you things, they always pushing you, telling you things that they did to get you where you're trying to go. It's always good to have that great support system behind you.
KJ, to have, you're the big brother, to have Diedrich now reclassified where you'll go together to the University of Memphis. What's that like to have him with you?
Well, it's really like a dream come true, to go to the next level and, reunite with your dad and play with your brother that reclassed and came up to play with you. It's just like a dream come true because, this could never happen, if without that, if him reclassing, we'll be together and been playing each other for the longest. So, looking forward to it.
Right. And I know before the decision was made about Memphis, there was a lot of speculation where you could go. But in the end, Memphis was the place you wanted to be. Is that right, KJ?
Yeah, Memphis. It always felt like home. You got one thing with coaches. You got to get the relationship, and you just got to trust them because once you feel like coaches going around, being around the bush. Josh Pastner recruited me in 2008, when I was like in the 5th, 6th grade. So. He was always there every game, and I just felt like I trusted him. And he also had, before my dad got on staff, my cousin, Coach Kirby, Rich is on staff. So It really just made me feel at home. And when my dad there, just sealed the deal,
Dedrick, there's a lot of talk over the years with local players staying home and the pressures of playing at Memphis, and we see this team this season struggling a bit. How do you deal with that, knowing that there'll be a lot of finger pointing if things don't go swimmingly right away? If there's some struggles early, they'll be like, okay, we heard all this about the Lawsons and they're struggling. How are you planning to deal with that?
Basketball is basically, it's just a game that we go out there and play. There's really not no pressure. It's just how you deal with the criticism. If you get some, like if you win, all the praise, you can't get too high. If you lose, you can't get too low, because the next day you got to play the next opponent. So it's all about having tough skin. You keeping God first will keep you motivated and keep you on the right path, and everything else will fall in line.
KJ, they look at you guys as the savior for this team next year, coming in with what they have coming back. Is that a lot of pressure for a young man to handle?
No, it's not a lot of pressure when you love the game, and it's just high expectations, and when you plan on performing at that high level and there's nothing else, you just setting the bar high and not competing and losing, that'll be, you know, a disappointment to us, not even to the own city of Memphis.
There's been some criticism of Coach Pastor, who's done a remarkable job in his 6 years, but when you lose games, there's finger pointing. Right. Dedrick, what kind of a coach do you expect Josh to be, and talk about your relationship?
Me and Coach Pastor, we have a real good relationship. We text each other from time to time, like before guys, text him good luck, and I text him like on his daughter's birthday, tell her daughter say happy birthday, little small thing like that to build a relationship and bond with your coach. And, Coach Pastor, we can go out there and see them practice. He be on them guys really hard. Like Coach Pastor is not just like, people say he's a soft dude, but he's not. He really just be on those. He holds them guys accountable, and he pushed those guys. And that's what I look forward in the coach, to just push me to my next limit, to get me better for the next level.
KJ, when you see this team on television or in person down at FedEx Forum, what do you think the issues are right now?
I don't really think that. I just think they're not buying into what he's doing, you know, just listening to the coach. It's really just like, I feel like it's a bunch of individuals, and I ain't gonna say just an individual. They just haven't bought into being a team together.
Finding that chemistry?
Finding the chemistry. That's really what it is. A lot of guys come from different areas. They're just really trying to get out, but if they play together, I think they'll be more often, you know, winning these close games and beating the SMUs and the Kentucky, you know, the Kinetics and all those type of teams in the conference. When they gel together and just buy into what he's doing, instead of it's just me, instead of just buying into the system.
You've played for your dad, but it's going to be different at the next level. Obviously, he's not the head guy, but he's going to be there in practice telling you guys to pick it up or run faster or do this or do that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. Whatever it takes to win, you know, I'm down for it.
Right. And Dedrick, that won't be an issue, will it?
No, it won't be an issue. It's something he's been doing since he was the age of 3, just pushing us to the next level. Just be the same thing we've been doing our whole life.
What about the rest of the season? The goal, obviously, be a state championship, right?
Yeah, the goal is to get a state championship. The goal is really to make everyone around us better. And like by us being high maintenance guys, we hope that we can bring other colleges just to watch those guys. And that's the only thing that I hate that I can miss earlier. Just I could bring other colleges to watch the other guys play, but I already know where I was going. So they just really like cut off some of the water that the other guy was getting from other colleges to come see. But it's all good. A couple guys still get nice looks, and they ought to be going somewhere D1.
KJ, do you know the guys on the team right now? Do you have a relationship with the current Tigers?
Yeah, I have a relationship with Nick King, Markel. As me and Nick won state my 9th grade year at East High School, so I have a relationship with some of the guys from Memphis, and I built a relationship with the guys that, you know, came in. And they're very nice guys, you know, down to earth guys, but they just, you know, they kind of clicked up right now. But I know those guys.
Is it hard or easy to focus on what you're doing now as a senior, grades, graduating, playing well, winning a state championship, when you know Memphis is on the horizon?
I think it's more harder for me because I take more classes than KJ does. I take online class and I take extra class so I can be there next year.
Because you're being reclassified, right?
Yeah, because I reclass. But other than that, it's just all about waiting your turn, just being patient for your time to come next year. It's all gonna happen in a matter of seconds. Like the high school career went by fast, so I know the college career is gonna go by even faster.
No question. We look forward to watching you the rest of the way, hopefully a state championship, and then of course when you join up with the University of Memphis Tigers. I know there'll be a lot of fans backing you guys here in the city of Memphis. Dedrick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
KJ, thank you.
Thank you.
What it do, baby?
Now, Hamilton's quest for a state title was dealt a severe blow recently when third leading scorer Terrence Baker was ruled ineligible, forcing the Wildcats to forfeit 15 victories. But they have yet to lose on the court and are still eligible for the postseason. They're still a heavy favorite to win a state title. One final note, Super Bowl 49 takes place this Sunday in Glendale, Arizona. The Seattle Seahawks are trying to become the first team in 10 years to go back-to-back. But standing in the way is the last team to win back-to-back Super Bowls, the New England Patriots. For what it's worth, and apologies to Super Pats fan and my Sports Files teammate Cliff Thomas, I like the Seahawks to accomplish the feat 34-24. And that'll do it for now. Have a great week, enjoy the big game, and we'll see you next time.
Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.